Now, there are a lot of myths about no-dig gardening. Now, one of those is that it is really easy to do, and to be honest, it is actually really easy and straightforward. Now, the other one is that you don't have to do any weeding, and that's not necessarily true. If we think about the weeds that we have, they are often from seeds which travel through the air, and wherever they land, they will germinate and they will grow. Now, the difference between a no-dig weed and a weed in soil which has been maybe dug over quite a few times and maybe left to stand is that with the no-dig, the weed roots actually go laterally rather than vertically, which means that when you come to weeding, rather than having to dig them out, they're actually quite easy just to get to your hands in the soil and pull them out, and you'll actually be able to see from the root systems that they go sideways. Now, when you do no-dig gardening, quite often what you will find is you will find mushrooms in your growing areas, and actually this is a really good sign. Don't get too excited that you're going to be able to eat these, because when it comes to fungus and mushrooms, you do have to be really careful. Now, the reason why this is actually a really good sign is because you have your microcryazae, and your mushrooms are a really good sign that that is being established. Now, your microcryazae or your mycelium network is actually a little white network which grows underneath your soil, and it's like the World Wide Web, also known quite often as the Wood Wide Web, because these little fine lines actually communicate with your plants under the soil. What we're doing is we're replicating nature. If we go into woodland areas, underneath the soil you actually have this, and what they do is they communicate between things like trees as to whether or not something has too much water, not enough nutrients, or maybe there is disease, and the different trees actually help each other out, and that is rather amazing. And that's what we're trying to replicate with our soil and our structures as we do no-dig. Now, it's quite obvious when we look at a no-dig bed compared to one which hasn't been no-dug as to just how good the quality of the soil is. Now, if you dig down, what happens is you actually destroy that network because it doesn't like being exposed to light. And this is where we come into how we actually set up a no-dig bed. Now, if you are setting up a brand new no-dig bed, you may have to do a bit of digging, especially if you have something like couch grass. Now, couch grass is very, very tough, and it will go through just about anything. So if you're digging up your couch grass, you must make sure that you get every part of those roots out, because otherwise they will just go through everything and they'll re-establish themselves. They're pretty tough. However, if you have not got couch grass and you are maybe replenishing a current no-dig bed, you're just going to follow a few very simple things. Obviously, clear out any of the weeds that you have, but then you're going to put down some cardboard. Now, the cardboard is really important. It does a number of different things. The first one is it actually covers over any of those weedy seeds which may already be in your soil. If they don't have any light, they can't grow. It will also protect any of your network which has already started to establish underneath. So it looks like with no-dig gardening, we're gardening from the top, but actually what we're doing is we're really supporting that network underneath the ground. Now, once you've actually got your cardboard down, make sure that you remove any sellotape or any plastic which may be on your cardboard. You don't want it in your growing area, and if you do have it, what will happen is over time those plastic bits will actually come to the surface, so make sure you remove those first. Once your cardboard is down, you may need to layer to make sure that there's no gaps, because any gaps, it will actually allow any of those weeds to come through. You then water over, and the reason for watering over is because you do actually want your cardboard to start mulching down, and you're going to give that nice bit of moisture in order to start aiding that biodegrading activity. Once you've done that, you then just need to stomp all over your cardboard, known as a cardboard dance, and then you put on your peat-free compost. Now, obviously we're organic growing, so it has to be peat-free. Now, as you put this down, just make sure that you don't stomp all over your freshly laid compost, because what you're trying to do is build your soil structures, and if you stomp all over it, you're going to destroy them. If you think about quite often when people are planting out in beds, they will put down planks of wood, balance themselves on them, and actually plant either side, and that's because they're trying to avoid compaction in your soil. Once you've actually got all of your soil down, you can then leave it. Now there's 2 different times of year really you can be doing this. I'm doing mine during the winter so that I'm going to allow that good worm action to come in, and those worms will actually bring up and rotate the nutrients in the soil itself, so that in springtime I'm going to be ready to plant out. However, you can actually do this in the springtime just before you start planting out. If you're thinking about, well, I might have root veggies, all you need to do is get yourself a dibber, push it into the soil, maybe going through the cardboard itself, plant into that hole, and then just cover around the edges. And that's it. That is no-dig gardening. You are creating a fabulous network which will actually help you to garden and make weeding a lot easier. Now this bed that I've actually done already is around 3 meters by 2 meters, and I've actually used 6 50-litre bags, so 300 litres to do this. You don't need to go really deep. Around 5 centimetres to 12 centimetres maximum is all that you need in order to make sure that you're protecting your mycelium network and getting everything ready for growing. So all that I need to do now is I have 6 more beds that I need to get the weeds up from, and also an awful lot more cardboard.